Albert Einstein, the name screams brilliance. But even the father of relativity had moments that were downright baffling. From bizarre fashion choices to disturbing relationships, here are 10 real stories that prove even the smartest man alive could make some shockingly dumb decisions. Number 1. He refused to wear socks forever. Albert Einstein despised socks. Not just disliked, he made a life rule never to wear them. Even while teaching at Princeton or attending formal events, he showed up sockless in shabby shoes. In a 1930s letter to his second wife Elsa, he explained, "When I was young, I found that the big toe always ends up making a hole in a sock. So I stopped wearing them." He even went sockless when meeting the British royal family. Elsa had to beg him to at least polish his shoes for the occasion. So next time someone calls you lazy for skipping socks, just say you're following Einstein's example. But does that make him a genius, or just gross? Number 2. He married his cousin and ignored her health issues. In 1919, Einstein divorced his first wife, Mileva Merrick, and married his cousin Elsa Lowenthal, who was both his maternal and paternal relative. But what's worse, while Elsa's health deteriorated due to kidney and heart problems, Einstein was often emotionally distant, spending more time on his research and possibly other women than caring for her. He even told her once, "I treat my wife as an employee I cannot fire." Einstein later admitted in letters that he wasn't truly in love with Elsa, writing that he only married her for convenience. Would you trust a man who could explain the universe, but failed to care for his own wife? Number 3. He proposed a disturbing deal to his first wife. In July 1914, Albert Einstein presented his wife, Mileva Merrick, with a shocking ultimatum: she could continue living with him, but only if she obeyed a strict list of conditions. These weren't suggestions, but demands, written in cold, clinical language. Mileva was expected to cook and clean for him, not expect any intimacy, leave his study immediately upon request, and never speak to him unless spoken to. Einstein had moved to Berlin for a new academic post, while Mileva and their sons joined him reluctantly. The marriage was already strained, and Einstein's obsession with work and rumored affairs had taken its toll. The list of rules was the final blow. Mileva eventually left, returning to Zurich with their children. Their divorce was finalized in 1919. Einstein later offered her his future Nobel Prize money not out of generosity, but as part of the divorce settlement. Mileva used the funds to care for their son Eduard, who would later develop schizophrenia. For a man who reshaped the universe with logic, Einstein showed a chilling lack of empathy in his personal life. Genius behavior or cold manipulation? Number 4. He suggested giving away his daughter, then she vanished. In 1902, before marriage, Albert Einstein and Mileva Merrick had a daughter named Liesl, a child shrouded in mystery. Born in Serbia, she was likely given up for adoption shortly after birth. No photographs, no official birth or death record exists. Her fate remains one of the biggest enigmas of Einstein's personal life. Letters between Einstein and Mileva reveal a troubling emotional distance. In one letter, Einstein casually asked, "Is she healthy and does she cry properly?" In another, he referred to her as it, not by name. He expressed concern about potential shame if colleagues found out about the illegitimate child, suggesting social reputation mattered more than fatherhood. Some historians believe Liesl died from scarlet fever in infancy. Others suggest she may have been raised by a local Serbian family under a different name. Regardless, Einstein never saw her again, and after 1903, she vanished entirely from his letters and memory. How could one of the greatest minds in human history turn away from his own daughter so easily? Number 5. He flirted with his stepdaughters openly. Einstein's marriage to Elsa came with 2 teenage stepdaughters, Ilsa and Margot. And according to their letters, his behavior with them was unsettling. Ilsa, in particular, was the object of Einstein's attention. He reportedly proposed marriage to her before marrying Elsa, her mother. Even after becoming her stepfather, he continued sending Ilsa affectionate, flirtatious letters. One biographer wrote, "The tone borders on emotional incest." Ilsa eventually broke off contact. It's one thing to be a charming eccentric. Quite another to blur lines within your own family. Number 6. He let his son rot in an asylum. Hans Albert Einstein became a respected engineer, but his younger brother, Edward Einstein, was diagnosed with schizophrenia in his 20s and institutionalized in Switzerland. Einstein, who had moved to the US, rarely visited or supported him afterward. In fact, he saw his mentally ill son only once after 1933. When Edward died in 1965, Einstein had been dead for a decade, but even while alive, he showed little compassion. His letters reveal a cold detachment. A person like him is simply a burden to others. For a man celebrated for his humanism, this is a painful contradiction. Number 7. He took credit for work he didn't do alone. While Einstein is celebrated as a lone genius, many scholars believe his first wife, Mileva Maric, contributed significantly to his early work, possibly even to the 1905 Miracle Year papers. They studied together, wrote letters discussing physics in the plural, our work, and she gave up her own career to raise their sons. Einstein never publicly acknowledged her contributions. She received no credit, no royalties, and lived in financial distress after their divorce. Einstein, meanwhile, rose to global fame. Did he quietly erase her from the narrative to build the myth of a solitary genius? Number 8. He was a terrible teacher, by choice. Despite being one of history's greatest scientists, Einstein was a notoriously bad lecturer. He mumbled, ignored student questions, and often went on tangents that baffled even experienced physicists. At the University of Zurich, some students nicknamed his classes Einstein's puzzles. At Princeton, students avoided him because he never followed the syllabus. Einstein himself admitted, teaching is a necessary evil. He once said that giving exams was useless. Why should I memorize things when I can look them up in books? Not exactly inspiring for future scientists. Number 9. He backed the atomic bomb, then regretted it too late. Though Einstein didn't work directly on the Manhattan Project, his 1939 letter to President Roosevelt urged the US to develop the atomic bomb before Nazi Germany could. That letter helped trigger the creation of the bomb. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein was horrified. He told a friend, "I made one great mistake when I signed that letter." He spent the rest of his life advocating against nuclear weapons, but the damage was done. Was the world's most brilliant mind outwitted by fear or blinded by ambition? Number 10. He left his brain to science and it was stolen. After Einstein died in 1955, his brain was removed during autopsy by Dr. Thomas Harvey, but without permission from his family. Harvey kept the brain for decades, slicing it into 240 pieces and storing it in mason jars. He mailed pieces to researchers around the world and even drove around the US with it in a car trunk. Einstein's family was furious, but the scandal snowballed into scientific myth. Years later, Harvey was fired and forced to return most fragments. But some pieces are still unaccounted for. Even in death, Einstein couldn't escape being dissected, literally.